All right, everybody. Thanks for coming back. We're here. So we just wanted to kind of have a chill episode this time and just reflect on some of the older games that have come out, some of the games that put us on this path to where we are now, just talking about video games all the time.
Revisit our roots, you know?
Hell yeah, bro. Like,
Show our true age.
Yeah. Even though we're not that old, but
yeah,
old
we're
enough.
not considered. We're all mid 20 somethings,
Yeah.
don't want to divulge
Mid to
the real age and shit, but we're all mid 20 something. So we grew up in the 90s, late 90s, really 99, 2000 is when we started getting into games, right? We were all 4, 5, 6 years old, 7 maybe.
Yep.
And we kind of grew up with the PS2, right? Like, we had the PS1s in the house. We had
a little before that.
I think it depends on if you had older siblings or not. Because, like, personally, like when my oldest brother was only 2 years older, and our first system in our household was a PS2. And obviously, I had friends with like an N64 or a Dreamcast or a Sega or like N64 or GameCube, whatever, all the different stuff. But the first one I personally owned was the PS2. That's where I got the most of my own personal exposure.
Honestly, that early period, I'd say after the 80s and early 90s, I'd say I was probably like 3, 4. That's when my pops said that he first got the Dreamcast. So it had been out for a while already.
Bro,
but
I
he got
remember
the Dreamcast.
The Dreamcast,
and,
okay.
We did not have. Now my cousins, they all had Super Nintendos. They always had the GameCube. They had the Wii. They had the N64. They had the Super Nintendo, and then they had like Game Boy Advances and everything. So that was very much a Nintendo household. In my house, we were Sony, and I had the PS2. The Dreamcast was there, but I probably played a full year as a kid, a full year of like Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah.
And then once I got the PS2, I never looked back. I never really touched the Dreamcast again.
Damn. I remember the earliest ones I had in my house was Nintendo, like the original Nintendo with the rectangle controllers, the duck hunting and all that. And I had Sega Genesis in the house.
I remember playing Duck Hunt. I remember having that bootleg game system.
I still have all of them to this day, bro. I still have the Nintendo. I still have the Sega Genesis with the gun and all that for Duck Hunt. I remember I still have the first Ninja Gaiden from Nintendo. I have the 8-ball port for Sega Genesis. I had the PlayStation 1 right afterward, then the Dreamcast. I never had a Nintendo 64. Had the GameCube, PlayStation 2.
Damn, you never had an N64?
That's the only one I missed out on, bro.
Damn.
Yep, I missed out on that one.
That's the big one, man. That's the
I know,
3D
bro.
one.
That's the fucked up part about it, yo.
It's really funny. I wanted to say that even though my first system was a PS2, I had like one friend that probably had every other system. Like I had one friend that had N64. I had one friend that had like the classic Xbox. I had one friend that had the classic PS1. I had another friend that had like the N64 or the GameCube, whichever one I said, I forget. So whenever I got a lot of exposure to all these games, because I would just go over there and we just like play that shit all day long, basically.
Exactly.
Like I'm like especially like Smash Brothers was a big thing. I played originally on the 64. We played it for hours, and then like move out to the GameCube after a while also, and play the shit out of it there. Even though I never had it though, I just got really good at those games. I played a lot of them then.
I mean, but you think about some of the games that we grew up playing in those houses, right? The other houses where they had, because every kid that grew up in that time in the early 2000s knows about the other house, right?
Yeah.
So there's your house. And then there's the other house, which is like your friend's house, your cousin's house, right? It's the house with all the video games. It's the house with all. Now, if you were that kid, then kudos. You know what I mean?
Lucky you.
like you were that kid on the block. Everyone went to your house. Like there's always that kid in the family who has everything, and all the kids gravitate to that place to just play video games.
Yeah, they grew up on the other side of town.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah.
Exactly. Like they had the nice stuff, right? Like I had my PS2, and I remember my first 2 games. We're gonna go around, obviously, and talk about what was some of the first games that we really started playing when we were younger. That we really got into, that kind of molded our memories of gaming, right? So for me, when I first got the PS2, I was like 5, 6 years old. It was for Christmas, and the first 2 games that came with the system that my mom got me, which to this day is probably what I consider the luckiest draw ever because she just randomly picked 2 games. She didn't know anything about games. She just picked 2 of the randomest games, and she's just like, "Here, like these are 2 of the games that are out with it. Just have fun, play it." And little did she know, at least, those were 2 of the best games of all time, considered like up
Mhm.
there for release games. Amazing, and that was Kingdom Hearts and Ratchet and Clank.
Oh,
Those
fam,
are the 2 games I got.
what choices to make.
Right? Amazing choices. Honestly, she had no idea what she was doing. I think there were many games out at the time. There were even like ports that they had of PS1 to like PS2 games, and the
Mhm.
PS2 was capable of playing PS1. So, she had those choices too. But she just went ahead and they were the release titles for the PS2, and it was just Ratchet and Clank and Kingdom Hearts. And wow, amazing experiences, both of them, from beginning to end. As a kid, a 5, 6-year-old, I'm going through these games from beginning to end, listening to story, developing relationships with characters.
Yeah.
Amazing, bro. What about you, Brendan?
Oh man, so for me, I remember it's funny hearing you say that. It actually reminded me. I totally forgot up until this very moment. The very first game I actually ever got from like personally for the PlayStation 2. The first game I ever got personally myself was Rocket Powered Beach Bandits. Have you remember that game?
Oh
Oh
my
my
god.
God.
Okay, that just brought it all back. 'Cause I remember
Literally.
I played the shit out of that game. Like I loved it. I remember like that was a game like I remember my neighbor Pat would always come over and like watch us like we'd play that for like hours. Just like I just remember like you have like your fucking hockey stick. You throw like the hockey, you're kind of hitting the hockey puck. There was like all the skateboarding levels and doing all the
Hell yeah.
tricks and like it was just so awesome.
Mechanically, that game was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and I forget because I remember when we got the PlayStation, my parents bought like because I have 3 other brothers, so they bought like each of us a game. But I don't honestly remember the games they bought my brothers. I just remember Rocket Power because I played that myself. I'm like, this is my game. I'm gonna play the shit out of this, So that was my game. But that all obviously, later on, Kingdom Hearts obviously was a huge. I got that right away when it came out. Played the shit out of that. Love that. And
Mhm.
also like the original like OG Lego Star Wars. Remember that? Like I remember getting
Yes.
that when it came out
Yes.
on
Classic.
PlayStation 2. And also
I
I know.
remember soon after all that, my next game that I got was the OG Devil May Cry. Devil
Oh
May
yeah.
Cry 1 on PlayStation 2. Amazing game as well.
One other game actually I wanted to throw in there real quick that I just remembered also. I think we mentioned it before we started recording was Bully. I know Chris, you surprisingly told me some information about this game myself. Why don't you fill the fans in, huh?
And yeah, I mean, it's gonna be shocking to a lot of people. I've heard so much about it, bro. I've seen rumors of it every single time a rumor for a Rockstar game is coming up. Bully's up there, man. But
Yeah.
I've never played a single minute of Bully,
That is shocking
and
to
I
me.
have to get it at some point.
It is so good. I remember when that game came out. I remember just like what it is. You in the running around with a slingshot, just like knocking out as many people as I could, getting into like as many fights, and that was just like such like a cathartic
Yeah.
game to play as like a prepubescent little shit.
It's one of the
Right.
most interesting like ideas I've ever
Yeah.
seen for a game.
I
It was-
remember I when I played that game, I only played a couple minutes of it, but I never finished it because I had the whack version because I was playing it on the Wii, bro, and it just
Oh,
didn't feel right
no.
playing it on the Wii.
You got it after that had been out for a while. and-
Yeah, so I was like, I'm gonna see what the hype is about. Played it on the Wii, I was like, yeah, nah, this is not the system for it. It's really not.
yeah, no, definitely not.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to sit down one of these days and actually play it. But just knowing that Bully 2 isn't in the works right now, that it's GTA 6. I mean, who knows? I mean, Rockstar could
Maybe
be
one
developing
day.
2 at the same time. I mean, does anybody else remember the heyday of Rockstar when they were releasing the game every year? And then it was like every other year. Remember GTA 3, 4, Liberty City Stories?
Vice
Like
City. Yeah.
they were releasing so many
Yeah,
things.
it was a lot more frequent their release schedule, but I think
Yeah.
because the games they're also making, well, think also like what they're like the games they're making now, like they're more like they're like ridiculously well detailed and like
Seeing what
beautiful. And,
Insomniac has done though, and how
Yeah.
they're able to have releases, kind of near each other, right? Ratchet and Clank, in and of its own, is an amazing game. And then they just did a few months earlier, they released Miles Morales, which, yeah, I understand. There's not really much more you're adding there. You're just obviously doing the animations for the cutscenes and Miles Morales' gameplay, but you're using the same city, right? You're using the same assets, kind of,
yeah,
and you're just kind of upping the graphics, so not so much work. But they still did that. They did Spider-Man Remastered, right, at the same time, and then on top of that, they released Ratchet and Clank like almost a year later.
yeah.
So I had a question for both of y'all.
Yep. What's up?
what's the earliest game you guys can remember playing, like from any system, from your childhood?
Mario.
Probably like
Mario.
Super
There were
Mario.
so many bootleg machines back then that
Yeah,
would give you
Mhm.
those games. Duck Hunt, Mario,
or like the
um,
original Smash Brothers, or
the
like
original Smash
Yeah.
Bros. Like they were,
Okay.
you could buy them
Super
at a
Mario
flea market for like
64
$30.
was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can remember going way back. Obviously,
Pac-Man too. I played the
Oh
original,
yeah.
original
Oh
Pac-Man.
yeah.
Yep.
Of
That's
course.
Pac-Man, of course.
pizzeria. That's pizzeria days right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Always used to play Pac-Man.
I had the thing you like plugged, you plugged like the yellow, red, and like green whatever cables into your
The
TV, and like you had,
composite cables,
Mhm.
yeah,
man.
you had,
Yep.
like the little joystick, and just like
All
plugged
right.
it in. It was like Pac-Man. I just like do
Right.
that.
Well, let me reiterate. So obviously, we already remember like those retro games, PlayStation 1 and on. Can y'all remember?
Unauthorized use of Fortress Door. Activating security tank.
Like first like 3D graphical game.
Oh, you know what?
Jack and Daxter.
I played the shit out of, and I know I keep saying that phrase, but this is really what I did. What is it? I played a lot of the original Spider-Man PS1 game. Remember that?
Where you couldn't touch
Yeah.
the floor.
Yeah, that game was awesome. I played that at my buddy Jack's house.
Then I remember as a kid, for the original Resident Evil was on PlayStation 1. And that game used to scare the shit out of me,
Yeah.
even with the shitty graphics, bro.
Man, I feel like a lot of the creativity for games at that time were just at an all-time high, right?
It was
a
Like, they were
different
just coming
era,
off of
bro.
everything. So what do you guys think is what made these games so memorable? And so was it that we were kids and we were playing them and they were just that experience?
It's definitely
Or
a part of it.
what was it like, the world building, the character development, the character design back
What do you
then?
have in the basket?
Nothing to talk about. Them monsters patrolling the ocean took a bite out of me fishing ring. And now they're gobbling up me catch. No matter what I try, I can't seem to catch a single fish in this river.
Woo! Maybe it's your breath.
You think you can do better? Try scooping up river fish with a tiny net. I'll give you a power cell if you can catch 200 pounds of them critters. And then I'll let you and Shrimp here use my speedboat to get to Misty Island.
I think there was multiple factors, but I think the combination of us being children and growing up with it, but also the technology growing as we grew as well at the same time. I think,
Yeah.
we kept kind of like, because even to this day, every time new games come out, you're like, oh man, if, based on what the last games were, how they're looking so crazy, I can only imagine what's coming out next. You know what I mean? So that kind of, I feel like that kind of excitement just to see where technology is going, it just naturally fuels excitement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of
tech was growing. Tech always grew kind of fast, right? But I feel like when you hit the 90s and you hit the mid 90s around there,
yeah.
the growth was so exponential in
Yeah, well,
terms of what was new every year
it's only going to
that
get
it grew
faster.
with us.
Yeah, it's only going to get and it's only going to get faster and faster. The
Yeah.
more we evolve technology, the faster it gets to evolve technology. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I mean, playing Horizon Forbidden West on the PS5 today, I cannot fathom the
yeah,
graphical prowess of that game.
but yeah, we
It's
could not
it's
imagine the
amazing.
photorealism that's possible now. Back in back in like 99, 2000, 2001, whatever. Back
It's
when we like
it's
first
just
starting playing
unreal.
games. Like
And
you would never.
I always laugh about that because it's like back then when you had these games coming out, it's like, yo, look at those graphics. And it's like
Hell yeah,
Mario with like a
man.
box body and box fists.
It's like,
Yeah,
this is amazing. You can see their hands.
I remember the cinematic cutscenes in Kingdom Hearts, like the first Kingdom Hearts.
That's what I was gonna say, too.
I remember thinking those were like the most
Some
insane
of the best
cutscenes
CGI
ever.
animations.
And now just like whole cutscene, whole games are just like even better than that now.
Sony
You
came
know
out
what I mean?
swinging.
Oh,
Sony came
even
out swinging,
I'll do y'all
but-
I'll do y'all one better with CGIs. Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Oh yes,
yeah.
right. Those cinematic shorts. Were
Yes,
epic.
those
Hell yeah,
cinematics.
man.
Yeah, I always feel like those games that were like great RPGs, even World of Warcraft, their CGI was incredible. To this day, the CGI is
Well, I
really
think
dope.
Activision still has the best CGIs. I mean, you even watch the Overwatch videos that they have online, the
yeah.
backstory of all the
They're clean.
heroes.
Mhm.
Amazing animation, right?
It looks like
And
a
then you
Pixar
get-
movie.
Yeah, and then you have that show that just came out on Netflix not too long ago, based on League of Legends,
Oh yeah, Arcane.
Arcane. The
Yeah,
style,
the
the
animation style's
cleanliness
insane.
of it, just that's one of the best looking animated shows I've ever seen.
Everybody should watch it. Who hasn't? Yeah.
So getting into the world design and everything. So let's go through some games that we feel were some of the most captivating ones, right? I'm gonna name one that hasn't been talked about a lot. At least it was for a very long time, but lately it just has been so out of the purview of everyone that we kind of let it go. And
Mhm.
that's the OG Jack and Daxter.
Oh
I
my
don't know
god.
if
Yeah.
anybody out there has played Jack and Daxter like when it came out when they were kids, not later on in their lives. Not like that was one of the like right after I got those first 2 games, a few months later I got Jack and Daxter.
Yeah.
That's when Jack
Right?
didn't even talk.
When
Or
Jack
was it
didn't talk,
Daxter? Yeah, it was
it was
Jack that didn't
always
talk.
Daxter, bro. And
Yep.
honestly, like the start of that game, it's based off of 3 what you would say 3 worlds, right?
Mhm.
And each world was a sprawling open world just playground, right? Which if you go back and play if you haven't played, if you go back and play Jack and Daxter, the original Jack and Daxter, whether you're 25 or you're 6 like I was, going through each of those worlds, the design.
Wait, one of you has the light within. From before time, I have watched and waited for the true hero to return. Present to me 120 precursor orbs for each power cell I contain.
And it was just clean, man. Like everything ran perfectly. Whenever you went and tried to explore somewhere, you're always rewarded, right? All of these kind of practices they do nowadays with open world games were there in the original Jack and Daxter.
Mhm.
And then you got the characters, right? You got Jack, who never talks. He's the unsung hero. He's the protagonist, right? In Daxter. And I feel like a lot of that was happening at that time. You look at Ratchet and Clank, same idea, right?
Yeah.
But Ratchet talked, but he
Right.
was still, kind of, quiet, and he still had the sidekick as well, with Clank. So that was really big back then. What games for you guys were the most what game, just one, was the most captivating one for you guys when you were little?
Based on terms of like in terms of like sheer gameplay hours, I probably played the most out of the original Star Wars Battlefront. I remember on the PS2. I remember
Man.
I would play that game for like I probably have so many hours recording that, especially because like so many friends would come over and play that also. You know what I mean? That was a great game to have people come over and like everyone would get together and play it.
Yeah.
And even when you weren't like there was kind of a campaign, you know what I mean, there was kind of a story, but like in across the first the original 2 games that came out back then, but even just playing amongst yourselves was really, I feel like the best part of it, and playing so it just sucked you in, especially in the second one when you could do the like the Jedi versus Sith like battles and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like that was amazing.
Yeah, man. Honestly, that's ingrained in a lot of kids' heads as their favorite game is Star Wars Battlefront, right? The
Classic.
original.
Iconic.
So it's and to this day, that's why there was so much hype around the EA ones that they remade, right?
Yeah, and that's
Because
why they were so
everyone's
disappointing.
exactly insanely disappointing, because they had something there that was a perpetual cash cow, probably,
Yeah.
if they just left the transactions alone, the
And you put
microtransactions.
any Star Wars label on something, you're gonna
Yeah,
have.
man, they could literally come out with a Star Wars Battlefront every year, have it be complete, just let it be a full game. Spend whatever amount of money you need on man hours to
Yeah.
make that a complete game
Better
for when you
deliver.
release it, and then you can continue to build off of that every
The
year.
saving grace was Fallen Order, though.
Yes,
That
that's
was a
much
great
more
fucking
recent.
game.
That's much more recent, and that's Respawn.
Oh,
So
true.
you got to
Yeah.
give credit to Respawn.
Yeah,
Titanfall
took it
1
away.
and 2.
Took it away
If-
from EA for a little bit.
I don't count that as an EA thing. I count
Yeah,
that
exactly.
as a Respawn thing. They got
I
lucky
agree.
that they have Respawn under their belt, because honestly, Respawn doesn't deserve EA. All right, they deserve a better parent company
Mhm.
to publish their games and stuff like that. But they are where they are, and EA's been treating them well, letting them have the freedom that they need. So
Yep.
they did it, and they were able to create a killer game with
Hell yeah.
Star Wars Fallen Order.
So I remember on Dreamcast, I used to play Spawn and the Demon's Hand. I don't know if y'all remember that.
I don't.
So as a kid, Spawn was always my favorite comic book character for some reason. I just liked the dark grittiness of Spawn, and he was just real, at least to me. And this
I
game,
remember the Spawn movies coming out at that time.
I love Spawn, bro. Like
They
during
were-
that
they were
era, I
amazing.
still love Spawn to this day.
They
And
got to remake that, man.
no, of course. But this game, it was an arena shooter, and it had different objectives depending on the game mode you're playing. So you could do capture the flag, team death, free for all, whatever it was. And they throw you in there. You could fight with your bare hands. You could pick up weapons. You could shoot each other. Do whatever you want. And it's all Spawn characters from the comic books. I used to play that so much as a kid.
You naming the games that I'm like, wow, bro, I never got a chance to play any of those games.
Bro.
Yet in my own universe, I had the best gaming experience when I was younger, right? Like everyone thinks they had the best one, because that's how gaming was back then.
Yeah.
It's like NBA Street. You guys remember that?
Oh
Oh, I
yeah,
do.
I
Yeah.
used to play
Yeah.
that OD.
Oh my god, man! I used to have bigs in the Tims all the time, man. There's just so many experiences from back then that
NFL
everyone.
NFL Street was good too.
NFL Street was amazing, man,
Mhm.
and even NFL Blitz. You guys
Oh
play
my
Blitz
God,
99?
Blitz.
Like
Yes.
Yeah.
that's OG, arcade style gaming. Then that was amazing. Like, doing the spin move. I remember I used to go so hard at this teen center that we used to have in my junior high school. They had this actual arcade console, right? They had two of them. And one was Blitz 99 and the other one was NBA Jam, right? And everyone, we would all day long, like we would have like tournaments on Blitz 99. Just because one, the games were quick, you could get them over with. It was like you could have like 2-minute quarters or whatever, and then everyone would be waiting, and we'd bet on like different like random shit, like, oh, like
Mhm.
you're gonna be on his team when we play football tomorrow if you lose, and then whoever wins, I get to pick whoever I want. Like we would do stuff like that, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Now, as far as
So
my last
in
game,
our life,
uh,
man.
hell yeah. As far as my last game, I want to know. I wonder if you guys will know this. You guys got to know this one at least. Jet Set Radio.
That I know the name, but I never played that. I've definitely heard of that though.
Oh man, that game was literally, it was just Tony Hawk with graffiti and rollerblading.
Yeah, do you see that company's making another game? And it's supposedly like all Jet Set Radio vibes, just a new story, a
Bro,
new like environment.
that game was so hard though, because like the whole purpose was that, okay, you go to a section in the city and they're playing, like, depending on your character, is like different type of music or whatever. So the soundtrack is lit. And you basically just go around the city, you collecting, spray bottles, and then you go to certain areas where you gotta tag up on the walls. But certain areas you gotta do tricks to get up to them. So it starts off with like there's no cops chasing you because you didn't spray on anything. The moment you tag one wall, then the cops start coming and chasing you. And the more you tag, the more cops start cutting you off in different directions, and you got to do more tricks to evade them and stuff. And as you're doing this, the soundtrack is killer, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I also actually got two more games I just thought of that I wanted to throw at you guys, see if you guys played these at all. The first one being a personal favorite of mine that I put many hours into was the Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction.
I remember that.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's OG. That's
that
OG.
game-
I remember playing that game at the same time the King Kong game came out for
Yes.
PS2. I remember having both of those at the same, just like back and forth. That was another great time in gaming for me. That like late 2000s time.
Just destroy
Um,
everything. I would always
so
make
good.
the fucking like car fist. You could like put you break the cars over your hands and just like
Yeah.
Yep, make them as boxing gloves.
yeah, and just beat the crap out of like,
Yo, and it was great gameplay, bro.
complete disregard for all human life around you. Just destroying everything. It
It
was
had the
amazing.
gamma wave clap too.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yes.
Yup.
Yes. Exactly. and then the last one I just thought of also, which you guys definitely know this game. I don't maybe you didn't play it, but the Simpsons Hit and Run.
Yup.
I
that
never
one
got to
too.
play that game.
I was gonna say Road Rage also, but Road Rage to me was a lot less. It was much more. It wasn't as good. It was
It's like
much more
Crazy Taxi, I
disappointing.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was just about to
exactly.
say I got my
Sure.
fill in with car games right before I got my PS2. Like I said, we had the Dreamcast. So Sonic Adventure 2 was Crazy Taxi. Crazy Taxi was so fun, man. Just like driving all over the place, going crazy, and just trying to get everyone to their points on time. And it was just, that was it. Like there was no depth to the game.
Yeah.
The game was literally the same thing every time, right? They had different modes, I think, but most of it was just you play the mode where you try to get as many people and just try to get the high score and do it
Right.
within the time limits. So that was for me. Crazy Taxi was like my car fill when I was
Yeah.
little.
But I mean, those Simpsons games, they're both good, but definitely Hit and Run was like a crazy, really funny, interesting game back then. And I remember I got it at a time when I'm pretty sure my mom was like, "Oh, I don't think you should be playing that game." So I had to like sneak play it a whole bunch. So I borrowed it from my friend who lived around the
Yeah.
corner. And
So that actually this is probably my favorite topic that I want to bring up right now. What was that first game that you played where you didn't want your parents to know you were playing? Right? What was that first game where you always felt like you had to sneak in the hours to play it because it was either violent too much? Like I know you said throw kill, but we're gonna take that one
Yeah,
out.
I mean, honestly, I never really had that boundary because I remember the first game my father willingly bought me for PlayStation 2 when it dropped was GTA 3. So,
See,
yeah,
that's nuts, man.
so
See,
I
that-
never really had you can't play this. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I did. I very much had that. I had a very, it was like in terms of buying the games, it was very strict. But but when I was actually playing them, no one was ever actually watching me play the games. Like I don't
Yeah,
think like, they really
exactly.
but like in terms of like like for instance like when the first Bioshock.
Son, you're special. You were born to do great things. You know what? They were right.
I remember I remember playing that. Like that's a game where like I remember I would like change the input on the TV whenever like my mom came downstairs if I was playing it because we she I wanted to see it because it was so graphic and like messed up where she would definitely be like what the hell.
Like, why are you playing this shooting game and all that, right?
Yeah, well, just because it was like very
Mhm.
like exactly, and not even just the shooting is that was a really like fucked up
Yeah.
game for the time, So
I mean, for me, it wasn't necessarily about the games that had graphic gore or anything like that. Yeah, maybe it was, but more was about the games with the bad scenes in them where you'd have to be like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to be looking at this," right? And that was going over to my uncle's house, my oldest uncle, and he had God of War, right?
oh
The
yes,
original God of
yes,
War. And
yes.
I
Yep.
remember I remember I would love going over to his house because he always had the cool games. Like the games that he had Silent Hill 4, The Room, right? He had like the really scary games and the crazy games and the games that I had never, because I was in Kingdom Hearts, I was in Dragon Ball Z Budokai, I was in, all those kind of like childhood Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter. Those
Mhm.
were my games. Like I was a PS2 kid and I had my Game Boy Advance too, with another gem in there that I
Oh
want to bring
yeah,
up.
I had the Game
Metroid
Boy.
Fusion.
Oh yeah.
Metroid Fusion is my favorite Game Boy game of all time. There's not even Mario, nothing. Metroid Fusion was
Metroid over
amazing.
Mario?
Hell yeah, because I was a kid. Like Mario was cool and everything, but I didn't give Mario the same fervor it did like maybe a 20-year-old or a 15-year-old would have given it back then, right? I was a kid. So when it came to like playing things, like Mario was cool, but when I got Metroid, that changed the game for me. Metroid Fusion was amazing. The atmosphere, the music, the enemy that you would have that was just you, but an evil version, and you'd have to kind of like sneak around, and there'd be scenes when it would come out, and you'd have to hide, and there'd be scenes when it sees you, and you have to actually run, and it's so fast, and it's all 2D platformer. So
You
it
know
was
what
like
that
it changed the game for me, Metroid
you know what that
Fusion.
just made me think of actually for because I wasn't even thinking of what is it, Game Boy games. I loved on my Game Boy I played a ton of was Wolverine's Revenge. Do you remember that? Did you
Yes,
guys play that? 'Cause
yes,
that
man.
was incredible. Oh my god.
Heyday of
That was
Wolverine
came out
games
in
right there.
2003. Yeah, I remember playing that like on
Mhm.
every road trip I ever went on when I was younger. I'd bring that game. Or
Yep.
actually, it's actually even funnier now I'm speaking on it. I have the original Incredible Hulk Game Boy Advance game
There you go.
also, and I have that because
Mhm.
I literally actually it's a game that I've had forever. It's actually sitting on my desk right in front of me right now because I forgot I've had it in front of my monitor for like ever, just like sitting there because I feel like maybe one day it'll be cause it's in good condition. Maybe it'll be worth some one day.
Yeah,
but
man.
but yeah,
It's probably
so
worth something right now if it's in
For
good
real.
condition. You could probably sell it
I'm
for a good
for
$100.
for
yeah,
Game
right.
Boy games, I was really into Mario and Luigi, where you get to
Mhm.
control both of them,
Yeah.
and it was like an RPG. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
remember I remember, Super Mario Brothers 3, like, Super Mario, like, Land, like, the annual not annual one, but the
Was that the
sequel
co-op
ones.
one? Where you could pick between like Mario, Luigi, Peach, and like Toad or something, and you could
Nah, it
throw
was
the
just
onions.
Mario and Luigi. Like, you could pick, like,
Oh,
but it didn't really matter. You were just one. Like, you could just pick who you could do the course with. There was no
hmm
real co-op. You had Yoshi in it. It was, like, the first one, but it was just the one that I grew up they had come up with Super Mario Bros. 1, and then 2, and then 3, right? And I was big on 3. Like, I had 3 for Game Boy, but it was hard, bro. Like, that game was actually hard. And once you got to, like, the bosses and you got to, like, the ghost houses, it was hard, bro. So I gravitated back to
hmm
Metroid.
Oh, I got another question for y'all.
yeah.
What was the first online game that basically made online pop into? What do you
Uh,
think was the first one?
RuneScape.
I mean,
Uh,
no, for like consoles. You know, how now we have Xbox Live and stuff because
Like, in
oh,
people.
our experiences, like, throughout our
No, just
lives?
in general, because a lot of people say Xbox Live was the first system to make
Well,
online like we have
yeah,
now.
no, man. The PlayStation 2 had that shit. The
That's what I
PlayStation
was
2 had
saying, bro.
yeah,
Okay, I,
bro.
I thought I was the only one that said this. A
Mm,
lot of people
I
don't
never
believe me.
used it. I never used it. I remember my pops used to use it for SOCOM.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say, bro.
Yeah, bro.
SOCOM was the first game. I
OG.
say this to this day. SOCOM was the first multiplayer game that made it before Xbox Live and any of that shit. It was SOCOM on the
Yes.
PlayStation 2, and nobody believes me.
You
Yeah,
were preaching to the choir.
I never
man.
had any internet capabilities with the when I had the PlayStation 2 or like I never had any of that set up. So I never experienced like online gaming until the Xbox 360. So I
It
can't
was
really
just
speak on
unheard of at the time
it. Yeah.
because it just came out. People had dial-up everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yeah.
not gonna
Oh yeah.
freaking plug it
Oh
into
yeah.
dial-up, but then on the thing it said, good for dial-up connections and things like that. Like you just needed an Ethernet cable, and no one knew any of that at that time. I remember it wasn't until it was probably like 12, 13, 14 that I found out that the PS2 had online like capabilities like what we had at that time. It's
Mhm.
just that it was used differently. It wasn't used in the same vein, with the lobbies and everything like that. There were some games that had it, but it wasn't so popular. But I do remember my pops used to play SOCOM, and he would always be playing with people. And SOCOM 3, one of the best. I used to watch him play. He would play that game every day, every
Mm-hmm.
day, because it was his PlayStation 2 at that point. Like we had moved and we had like a bigger one. I remember we used actually no, it was smaller. He had gotten the slim, so I remember he used to play the PS2 and he would have the slim and he would play SOCOM every day. The missions were hard, they were
Yep.
tactical. You had to really plan it out.
That's a game that got to
And
come back.
that if they had that game come back, they would completely kill it, man. They would kill it. Like that
Imagine
game needs to happen.
like these graphics today with the
Oh
mechanics from
god.
back then, bro. How smooth it used to run, because that was a smooth game
Oh
for
yeah.
its time.
That game was beautiful. With
Mm-hmm.
the three other SEALs or soldiers, and you're just going around. You gotta like assassinate targets. You gotta be quiet. You gotta be stealthy. You can't get found out.
And the online
Um,
was chaotic, bro.
yeah,
The
man.
online for that time, that was like the original Call of Duty in a third person view.
They need to make that again, man. I remember they did came out. They came out with a few on PSP. I don't know if you guys remember. They came out with a few games. SOCOM Bravo Team, SOCOM, Navy SEAL. Like they had a
Yeah.
few
Yeah.
that came out on PSP. That
I think I had one of them actually. I think if I remember, I think I did.
yeah. It was
Yeah,
it
I
was
forget which one.
it was very popular for PSP. Like a lot of people got it, but that's because it was feeding off of the PS2 life that it had. But once it hit PSP, like I guess it kind of stayed there, and they never brought it back to consoles. And I think that's a cash cow waiting to happen, man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They gotta bring that back.
You know another shooter died out? Killzone.
Yeah, that's true. Those were
Yeah,
more like
more by
narrative
choice.
though,
More
right?
by
Those
choice.
are more
They
like
haven't
story
made it.
based, aren't they?
What, Killzone?
Yeah.
Guerrilla Games making Horizon right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they made Horizon Forbidden West, and then they made Horizon Zero Dawn earlier. And the development time for each of them has been roughly. So when did Horizon Zero Dawn come out? Was it
I think it was
2017?
I was gonna say I think it was 2017. That's when I thought.
2017. So roughly 5 years of development time for that one, and the first one was 5 years. So they're so focused on this, but they have said that they want to revisit Killzone
Because
at
I
some point. Now they
remember
did come out with Killzone Shadowfall, was it on PS4?
No, I always mistook Killzone and what was it? The Metro like series, like
oh, yeah,
Metro.
Metro 19 something. Oh, no,
Yeah.
20
Metro
something.
2033,
Yeah.
Metro,
Yeah, like those games. I don't know why they always seemed so like the same. I never played either of them. They always just seemed like the same thing to me.
yeah,
Mhm.
those post-apocalyptic type. But this one, Killzone, was completely different.
Yeah,
It's more like
Killzone was like
a spacefaring adventure with
basically space Nazis, bro.
exactly.
Like they literally were trying to colonize, and those people that were in all black suits, they couldn't like breathe certain fume like air and oxygen and shit. So
Mhm.
they're like trying to, I don't know, there's like a whole colonization type deal they got going on.
Yeah. They actually came out with the Guerrilla actually came out with a game for the Vita for Killzone Mercenaries. I think that was the last game they released for Killzone, unless Killzone Shadowfall came out after that. But if you guys remember Shadowfall on the PS4, that was a beautiful game, and that was amazing. And they're definitely, I could see them looking into after Forbidden West and maybe some DLC. I see them going back to Killzone because
Yeah.
that's Guerrilla Games. Like that's who they are. They're Killzone. So this was nice. This like switch up into Horizon, but yeah, I agree with you, man. They gotta bring back Killzone again, and that makes me remember another game that was out at the time that I remember it was out like towards the end of the PS2 era, and then really started getting big in PS3. Was Mercenaries Playground of Destruction? You guys ever play that game?
I never played it, but I heard of it.
Oh yeah, I remember playing a lot of that
I
actually.
played a lot of that, man, planting the bombs on the road and then
Yeah.
detonating them when a car went over and just watching the car just fly in the air and come down like 20 seconds later. Just crazy physics,
Yeah, I
man.
remember just running around with the RPG. That was like that's what
Yeah.
I'd love to do, just blow everything up.
So looking at all of those and understanding that that era is no more, right? We still have these modern versions of all these retro games that are coming out, be it inspired by those retro games or what we consider retro, right? A lot of people retro is 70s, 80s, but for us, retro is just when we started out, like our early
Yeah.
life games. They've been modernized still, and they are still relevant today. Like as much as they might have been, games of the past and how great technology has progressed since then. All these games they're still used as inspiration for games that are some of the best out today. So let's go around the table and let's go name a few games that have taken that old formula and given it some fresh life.
I mean, I know this is probably super on the nose, but I mean like the Resident Evil 2 remake, I mean, I know it's like, it took the original Resident Evil 2 game, and remade it from the ground up and like
Yep,
added a whole bunch of new features, but like it took the play style of Resident Evil 4 that was like, so iconic, the over the shoulder third person
yep.
look, and then threw it into, to their arguably one of their best storied games, and the remake was just incredible. And I know you're saying just like more so, I guess like maybe tactics or things from back then that are used nowadays, but like I just think in general like that remake was so well done. and
Yeah,
and,
not
and it,
necessarily tactics. I mean, it could be full on games that are
yeah.
redone too. I
Well,
mean,
in
you look
general, I
at
mean, I think in general, I think that's kind of like the hot topic nowadays, and like everything, whether it's films, TV, video games, everyone's looking back to the past and nostalgia to tap in, to make money nowadays. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
Hmm.
like everything's either getting remade, rebooted, or
we're
I think
running out of ideas,
I
man.
think for
Hmm.
video games, but for video games, I think it's good for the ground up remakes. I think is what should be the be all end all for
Yeah,
that stuff.
I
Like
think I think one of the best examples of this is Shadow of the Colossus, the
yeah,
remake that Bluepoint did a few years back. That is one of the most beautiful, beautiful remakes ever. And you look at then they did Demon Souls, right?
Hmm.
hmm
So like that's that type of remake atmosphere is very alive right now.
yeah,
But
we
in
got
terms
Dead
of
Space coming up.
taking the foundations of games, our Metroidvanias are inspired by Metroid,
Yeah.
and Castlevania games, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of those prevalent today. And obviously, we had the new Metroid Dread that was just released on the Switch in October of last year. Which I'm getting through that game. It's a roller coaster of action. But you got other games like Cuphead, right, on
Oh my
Xbox.
god, yeah, Cuphead is
So
so
many
hard.
people play.
So
It's
simple but
so
so
hard,
difficult.
Or I
but
think another game I love is Carry On, which is it's kind of like it takes that classic like
Devolver
8-bit
Digital,
animation.
baby.
Yeah, it's got that 8-bit like
Hmm.
animation, and it like that real rustic look, but it's really fluid, and like it's a really good and like pretty graphics game. For what
Mhm.
even though despite
You play the
looking,
monster. You
yeah,
play the
exactly,
monster
you
going
play as
around
the
killing
monster.
everything.
It's great.
And you just absorb it into your being, that pasty, meaty being, whatever the hell that thing is. You got Little Nightmares. Have you guys
I
played
was
that
just
game?
Oh
about to say
yeah,
Little Nightmares. I fucking love
I
it.
yeah.
just started experiencing Little
Love
Nightmares a
Little
few months
Nightmares.
ago when Little Nightmares 2 came out. I remember seeing the trailer for it, and ever since playing Inside and Limbo, I was always intrigued by those 2D side scrollers that just put so much effort into the actual way the game looks and moves
And the
to
atmosphere.
make it as realistic.
Yeah.
You got Ori, right?
I'm about to
Hmm.
say Ori. I was about to
What
say
do you
that.
what do you what do you love the most about Ori,
I mean,
Brendan?
I think it's just the way it has like a classic old school feel, but it's like a beautiful game. Like the animation is like
It's
incredible.
I
You
can't I
know,
can't understand how, like,
it's so
it
artistic.
must be it must be much easier to make a beautiful 2D game like that, but
Yeah,
still, that game is gorgeous, right? And it's about the art style.
exactly.
It's as realistic as it needs to be. If that company decided to go ahead and make like a 2D side-scrolling action game, right? Where it's as
Mhm.
realistic, the graphics in it are as realistic as possible, they would kill it. but it's because of the art style that they pick. It looks a little bit more animated, but even the animated environment is so realistic and beautiful.
Yeah.
That's one of the best examples of a modern take on retro games. You got to take everything that these companies have done with this kind of, modernizing all these games from back then, the inspiration they take. You either take that and understand that they still have to evolve on it, right? They
Mm-hmm.
have to bring something new to the table every now and then. And that's where I want to bring in a game called Blasphemous.
Because it is my guilt, I claim you, grievous miracle. Make my chest hurt with regret. Forge your punishment and nail it deep. Shape my guilt once again.
And if you guys haven't heard of this game, it's a 2D game
Right.
that is pretty much in the same graphics level as an old Game Boy Advance game, right? The 8-bit era where games, Castlevania and Mega Man and all those older games, right?
Ghouls and Goblins.
Mega Man was another game I played a crap ton of back then on Game Boy. I loved that game.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when you look at Blasphemous, it really took a lot from that era, combined it with like Dark Souls, combined it with this gory gothic atmosphere, right? One of my favorite examples of modernizing an old style is Blasphemous. So if you guys ever want a game to try out, it's pretty cheap, like $20. It's you can get it on sale. You get it on g2a.com pretty cheaply on every system. But it's obviously great, handheld and on the go. It's on PS4, it's on Xbox. It's a great game, man. And I'm sure Brendan, you would love the story, the lore of that game that you
Yeah, I'm
picked up
sure.
from items and just the world that they built for that game. Amazing. Let's actually go through our list of games that we would like to see remade and come back.
I was gonna say it'd be cool to see the Max Payne trilogy. I know Max Payne 3 came out, I
Yes.
think in like
Mhm.
2011,
I forgot about
2012.
Max Payne. Holy
But
shit.
like,
Max Payne was the
but
ish,
the Max
man.
Payne, like the original Max Payne, remake of that from the ground up would be sick.
That could be a really great game.
That game
Yeah.
revolutionized
With new
the
graphics?
slow motion.
Yeah. I still remember that, getting the shots off in slow
Yep,
motion,
and
man. Then what came after was Red Dead.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah,
really
with
took
Eagle
it. They
Eye.
took it and flew with it.
Yep.
You know what I just thought of actually? You know what else would be a dope remake? Would be the Silent Hill series.
Oh, but we've been wanting that for forever.
Yeah, I
We've
know,
been
but
wanting-
I was
we've
just
been
thinking
wanting-
Resident Evil, Silent Hill is
We've
just
been
something,
wanting Hideo Kojima to do it, and everyone knows Blue Box
PT.
Studios is actually. Everyone knows
Yeah.
Blue Box Studios is actually Hideo
Mhm.
Kojima.
PT got to come back, bro. Silent Hills PT.
PT. They got. I never understood why they took it off the store. I understand
know,
about
so
the
stupid.
licensing and
That
everything
was
like
great.
that, but for the people who still have it, they still have it. They can still play it. But if you don't have it, or you were never you never kept it. I remember downloading it and playing it when it came out, and then I deleted it because I needed the space. But if I would have known how important that game would be for the horror genre going forward, that
Mhm.
little teaser, I would have
Mhm.
kept it.
I would also love to see another Splinter Cell, or like a remake or remaster of like Splinter, the Splinter Cell
Yep.
series, because
We've
like
been
I
wanting
know
that
they
for so long, man.
I know they also
Mhm.
made like I think they made a more recent one back in like 2012 again. Also, maybe so
Yeah,
just about
360.
10
I think it
years
was
ago. Yeah,
Blacklist.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, exactly. And it was good. It was good. But I feel like if they if remake the original,
There's so many games.
that'd be pretty awesome.
I got. You know what? I want to go play Burnout Paradise. I want to go play that.
Mhm.
They came out a remastered not too long ago. Burnout Paradise remastered. I gotta go play that because I never played Paradise, and it's just more modern Burnout. And who doesn't want that, right?
Right. What was the question you said in the beginning? What game you would like to come back, right?
Yeah. What were some of the games
Prince
you
of
would love
Persia.
to see rebooted? Prince of Persia
Yeah.
is a perfect example
Yep.
of a game that was doing just fine. The franchise was doing just fine, but because of numbers and sales and things like that, they axed it. Yeah, man, I agree with you. Prince of Persia is a great example of a game that I would love to come back. But for me personally, it's got to be Jak and Daxter. I've been waiting for a Jak and Daxter reboot with, some realistic graphics, maybe, some like, world environment beauty of like Horizon style, something like that. I've been waiting for it for a long time. That I put that on the same level as when Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced. If you guys remember that cutscene that came out on the beach, and the camera's panning down, and then you see a Keyblade, and Sora walks up, and he picks up the Keyblade, and everyone goes wild.
Walk away.
Yeah, well,
Just hear the music
that's
playing.
one of the best entry songs ever made.
Yo, literally.
That song was lit, bro.
I'll still, to this day, I could go back to listen to that song.
You go back and watch that opening cutscene to Kingdom Hearts, and it will give you chills.
That's one thing I gotta give to Kingdom Hearts. I feel like every trailer with the release songs, they were all good.
Final Fantasy, man, it's because of Final Fantasy.
Like even with that Skrillex one was dope.
I do understand how that entry, that opening point to Kingdom Hearts can be very off-putting to some people. But again, when I played it, I was very young. So it was great for me to play through that, all the Disney characters and all that. But when you combine Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, you get the second half of Kingdom Hearts and then Kingdom Hearts 2, right? Like, though the second half of Kingdom Hearts, when it really picks up, the story picks up and the combat picks up, and you get to the real bosses and you find out the real truth of what's behind the game and, the darkness and all that. And then Kingdom Hearts 2 is just prime time gaming. It's an unreal experience once you get the hang of all the combat and everything. Kingdom Hearts 3 was a bit of a letdown for a lot of people, but again, it was more Kingdom Hearts, right? And it was awesome. Like they really tried to update the formula and they tried to do their own thing, but it didn't hit the same way the old ones did. You know what I mean? So now they had just announced Kingdom Hearts 4. So like, I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer to it.
Yeah, I did.
It's, I don't know what to say about it. Yeah, I get it. It looked amazing. Graphics were great. The combat was really cool, but that realistic environment where it was just off-putting. It didn't match. It was like they were trying to go a little too hard with the realism, and like that's not Kingdom Hearts. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kingdom Hearts is not ultra realism, right? But then again, we have to look at what it is that world pertains to, what characters, because it was teased in that trailer that there's gonna have Star Wars and Marvel crossovers now that Disney has those two franchises. In one of the parts in the trailer, you see one of the feet to one of those droids, the two-legged droids. You see the clear design of its foot in the background, and the camera's just like flowing over like random images at that point.
Now I just hope it doesn't have like that situation where Gears 4 started falling off. So I hope Kingdom Hearts, because like you said, like Kingdom Hearts 3 really let down a lot of people, and now.
But see, with Gears, I feel like it was so much more consistent, the releases, compared to Kingdom Hearts. Like Kingdom Hearts had a humongous gap between real games, like actual number games. They came out with so many games on the PSP and the DS and the Game Boy Advance. Even they had one, I think it was called Recoded.
Yeah, it was.
And then on PSP, Birth by Sleep, awesome game. But between 2 and 3, actually, is nuts. It's like I don't even know how long it was. I think 2 came out in 2005. And then 3 came out just like 2 years ago, 2019.
It was like 2019, yeah. 2019.
Yeah, so that's a long time, man. It's like 14 years, 13 years without an actual number game. I would love to see a Jak and Daxter remake or a reboot or a continuation even. Because that universe they had so much going for that universe, so many stories they never told, right? And I feel like it was played out by part 3, but only because there was limitations on the hardware and they had already come out with 3 games. That's a game that they should have come out with a new one every generation. It should be like a type of game where
Like a
it's released for
franchise
every
game?
new console. Yeah. Like what were some games like Mario, right? There's always a
That's
new
a
game for a new
Nintendo
system.
staple, bro.
Exactly. Like it should have been a staple where instead of releasing 3 back to back the way they did in PS2 era, like I would have loved for them to just have Jak and Daxter on PS2 and then have a long ass break and then made one for PS3, right? Like at the beginning of the life cycle.
Like an exclusive.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but like what Last of Us did. Like Last of Us came out at the end of PS2, end of PS3, early PS4 era, and then now you got literally at the end of the PS4 era, Last of Us 2 comes out. You know, so it's
Right.
like, you know, it's pretty cool to have that amount of time between it. They would make a lot of money if they had it that way.
Oh
And then
yeah.
Jack 3 coming out for PS4. Imagine, you know, like it would have done a lot better. So I would love to see that game get rebooted and remade. So I mean, I feel like we covered as much as we could, right? With all these retro games. I mean, we went back to our roots and
Yes.
we went through our lives growing up with them. We talked about games that, you know, we would love to see come back. And
So many good memories.
hell yeah, man. And we even talked about, you know, how they've modernized these games in terms of, you know, making them more for today's player
Mhm.
as opposed to just keeping that old style and not evolving on it. And there's definitely a lot more to come. You still have obviously Nintendo modernizing, you know, the Zelda games and coming out with
Yeah,
Breath of the Wild.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild
That's gonna
2
be
coming
good.
out soon. And apparently it's too big for the Switch. Like it's
Yeah, they got to
already-
make a
it's
new
gonna-
system.
yeah, it's gonna be in the next game because it's not just above ground, it's below ground too, and it's in the skies. So that's gonna be, you know, a whole new take again. And you have, you know, games like Ori, Will of the Wisps, and you know that beauty that's gonna happen. You know, who knows where they go with that. Hollow Knight. But you know, you see where these companies go, and it was definitely a great conversation to have. It's always nice to look back on what made us as gamers and what put us in this realm.
Exactly.
And honestly, those experiences are, in my opinion, better than 80% of the experiences that are available today. So
Mhm.
I love my old experiences.
Hell
Yep.
yeah. Had
I agree.
flashbacks playing this. I mean, talking about this, had flashbacks.
Yeah.
So definitely a great conversation. Thanks for coming on here, guys. Brendan and Show, my
Absolutely.
co-hosts on this awesome podcast we have going on here. And again, if you guys like the content, just make sure to subscribe down below and hit the like button and leave a comment. What are some of your favorite retro games that you guys played when you guys were little?
Yes, let us know.
What are some of the games that you guys think we missed?
Mhm.
Because obviously we missed a bunch.
Let us
We
know if
kept
you think
naming
our
them,
let
but
us
we
know if,
definitely missed a bunch.
let us know if you think our opinions are trash.
Yeah, give it
Word.
to us. Give it to a download. We forgot it.
Yeah.
But yeah, yep. Happy to have you guys. Great conversation. And this is Filmic Gaming Podcast. Peace out, guys.